Hey guys, I'm Lou. The, well, for now anyway, unknown artist and indie author behind the fantasy world of Fist Bump the Sky. I started in 2025 and it took me a while to figure out my path. But now that I have it, or it found me again, I'm on a mission to get people to know me, my work, and my writing this year in 2026. But I thought maybe this might help somebody else who may be trying to figure out their path. So maybe this doesn't apply to everybody, but this definitely happened to me. I think, wait, so I have been attracted to stories in all forms, whether it was books or movies, music videos. Oh yeah, music videos or anything since I can remember. I've always been drawing. I only got into painting later. I'm still not that into it, to be honest. I like just paint because it's works with the style. Yeah, but it took me a really long path to. But it took me a really long time to find the path that I'm on now. And because I loved stories so much, I decided to go study acting. Yeah, I know it doesn't really make sense. Mm. So, when I was younger, because of the whole writing and illustration thing, when I was in primary school, elementary school, we say primary school in South Africa, we follow the British system. Anyway, but when I was in primary school, I really wanted to become a mangaka, which is what you call the artist of Japanese comic books or mangas. But because of the time back then, like every things weren't as open and accessible as they are now. So I was determined to become a mangaka. I still practice and um started teaching myself Japanese. Yeah, no, it lasted a day. Um, anyway, but then I realized sadly later that the chances of me being accepted into a publishing house in Japan were like nil, zilch, nothing. Because back then it was only Japanese nationals who were accepted for obvious reasons, right? Cultural differences. So then I decided to go study acting because I loved stories. Now, as weird as this might sound, like, why didn't you just go study directing? Or why didn't you go study script writing? Quentin Tarantino actually said in one of his interviews that he himself had studied acting first before he became a writer director. Because our first exposure to people in the film industry are through the actors. It might be you figure out that you're actually more into the writing or like just the art of it, but it's still the actors. So even he went to go study acting first. But I think Quentin Tarantino actually brought up an interesting fact. Even though there are thousands of occupations in the world, especially now there are probably millions. I don't know. I did not do this math. It's the ones we're exposed to the most, the ones we actually hear about in like general without having to deep dive on the internet. And the ones we hear about in school, or the jobs of parents do, or our grandparents do, that shows us kind of like which paths are available to us. But I want to say that the path that you're supposed to be on is basically right in front of you. You're just not seeing it. Or in my case, you saw it, but you ignored it. So I started last year in 2025, right? Yeah, I did say that. But when I started with writing and with the books. So I followed the indie author path, and then later on, I realized I had to focus on the art as well. I mean, it makes sense because I make art books. With like specialty papers in between the writing and stuff. Imagine like a really fancy light novel. And then when I was doing the art thing, I was started with the art. I was like, all right, now I need to do the artist path. But because the art I was doing came from the books, and then the books were too artsy, I was like, oh my god, what am I gonna do? What is the path? So for a long time, even though I was working hard and putting in my all, I was getting somewhere, but essentially nowhere at the same time. Because I was hopping between two paths and following one specific thing. And then later on, it hit me like a brick in the head. The path I'm on, or should have been on from the beginning, is the one of sure an indie but or independent, but a comic book artist. Those are the events, those are the people, those are the types of exhibitions, all of these things that I needed to be on and that I'm on now. I mean, it's only January, but I feel so much better and more confident in myself and in my work now that I actually have the path. So I wasn't that surprised. It's I've always been drawn to comic book artists, especially the ones who write their own work, like on webtoons, for instance. Um, but I've always been intimidated by it. I knew the amount of work that went into it. I knew the amount of hours, and I also knew how insanely difficult it was. I was like, I don't want to do that. And besides, I'm in South Africa, Like we don't really have, like, it's not the place for that. If you want to do comic book stuff, then you're gonna have to go to the States or France or Asia. And I'm not Asian or French or American. So yeah. But even so, every time during a recess or break, but every recess, every holiday, every time I switched a job or jumped between countries when I was living and working abroad, I would go back to illustration and I will go back to stories. And now that I know that the path I was too scared to go on, and the one that's always been there, you just keep ignoring it, that's the one. And as difficult and scary as it is, the feeling of confidence I have right now is so, so good. You have no idea. Jumping between two different paths or ignoring something that's hitting you right in the face, man, it's just not worth it. And in 2026, we can do anything, but you have to start you any time of your life, but the more time you have, the better. So this is what I want to suggest to you guys so that you don't realize what you have to do in your 30s. Because, like, it's not a rush, but I want to do this until my last day. And unfortunately for me, I don't have that many of them left. But anyway, so what I want to suggest to you, if you're feeling lost and you're always the late bloomer or whatever, think of, don't try and think of what you want to do. Because we might want to become actors, or we might want to become race car drivers or rock climbers or something. Um, but that's maybe just not for you. You might have talents in something else. And I don't mean drawing or painting or whatever. Like communication and brain things are talents as well. So trying not to think of the money aspect. Think of how much money it would need you to get there, but don't think of how much money it's going to bring you in. And try not to think of what you want to do. Think of what you're doing already. What's the one thing you're doing constantly? It's the thing you're doing naturally. That's going to point you in what might be your path. The unique path for the unique you. Because again, guys, it's 2026. We're not like Westerners can now become mangaka in Japan. The tallest guy in the world is Chinese. Oh, was. I mean, like, you don't have to be a race car driver or a mechanic to go into that world. You might just be specialized in how the wheels work or designing the car. I don't know, figuring out the air currents. What else? So yeah, just to make sure that the bell doesn't drive you guys as crazy as it's been driving me, and that I don't go into a yap session, that's it for me for now. Um, I'm gonna try and post videos regularly, but um, I'm busy. Anyway, bye guys.